At the dawn of the 15th century, the Ottoman Empire stood at a crossroads. The rise of Bayezid I, who became known as the Thunderbolt, had brought the empire to the heights of military and territorial expansion. However, in 1402, Bayezid I's crushing defeat by Timur, the formidable Turkic-Mongol warlord, set the stage for an unprecedented crisis. The Ottoman Interregnum, a period of political fragmentation and civil war, would follow, lasting for several years. The once unified empire now lay fractured, and its fate rested in the hands of Bayezid's sons, who fought fiercely to control the throne. Bayezid's defeat at the Battle of Ankara in 1402 had far-reaching consequences. Not only was Bayezid captured and humiliated, but the defeat left the empire vulnerable to both internal power struggles and external threats. The Ottoman Empire was no longer the dominant force it had been under Bayezid's rule. Instead, it was a broken empire plagued by chaos, rebellion, and uncertainty. With Bayezid's capture, the empire fell into a vacuum of power. His sons Isaac, Musa, Suleiman, and Mehmed I each claimed the right to succeed their father, but the empire's territories were split between them. This division marked the beginning of the Ottoman Civil War, a brutal and often bloody struggle for dominance. The once mighty empire, which had sprawled across the Balkans, Anatolia, and parts of the Middle East, now found itself divided into competing factions, each vying for control. During this tumultuous period, Mehmed I, the son of Bayezid I, was initially pushed to the sidelines. His brother Musa took control of Bursa, while Isaac and Suleiman controlled parts of Anatolia. Mehmed, however, was not one to accept defeat quietly. He took refuge in the city of Amasya, a relatively small Ottoman province at the time, but it was here that Mehmed began to plan his return. He realized that in order to restore the Ottoman Empire to its former glory, he would have to unite it under his rule and overcome his brothers. The interregnum dragged on for nearly a decade, each year marked by internal strife and external threats. The empire's once strong military was now in disarray, and its subjects were weary from the prolonged conflict. Yet, in the midst of this chaos, Mehmed saw an opportunity. While his brothers were distracted by their own ambitions and struggles for control, Mehmed sought to secure alliances with local leaders and military commanders, who were disillusioned with the constant infighting. Through shrewd diplomacy and strategic partnerships, he began to build a base of support that would eventually be critical to his victory. In 1413, after years of military maneuvering and political negotiations, Mehmed I faced his biggest test. His brother Musa, who had claimed the throne after Bayezid's death, positioned himself as the primary rival. Musa's forces had gained significant strength, and he was determined to maintain control of the Ottoman territories. The stage was set for a decisive confrontation. The pivotal moment in Mehmed's rise came with the Battle of Fiholu, a battle that would change the course of Ottoman history. In this climactic battle, Mehmed's forces met Musa's in a decisive military clash. The forces under Mehmed's command, though outnumbered, fought with discipline and tactical brilliance. Mehmed's leadership, combined with the loyalty of his supporters, proved victorious. Musa was defeated, and after the battle, he was captured and eventually executed. With his brother's death, Mehmed I emerged as the undisputed ruler of the Ottoman Empire. The victory at Çorlu was not just a military triumph. It was the beginning of the Ottoman Empire's restoration. Mehmed I had succeeded where his brothers had failed. He had united the empire under his rule, ending the chaos and division that had plagued the Ottomans for over a decade. However, while Mehmed had won the throne, the true challenge lay ahead, restoring the empire to its former strength and securing its future. The Ottoman Interregnum may have come to an end, but the work of rebuilding the empire was just beginning. With Mehmed I firmly in control, the next step was to re-establish central authority over the Ottoman territories. The Balkans, which had been a key region for the Ottomans, had seen significant unrest during the Civil War. Various local rulers had rebelled, and the Ottomans had lost ground to external enemies. Mehmed's immediate task was to reassert control over these rebellious regions and ensure that the empire's military power was restored. Mehmed's approach was one of reconciliation and diplomacy. He knew that to secure the empire's future, he would need to unite the people and military under his rule rather than relying solely on force. He offered amnesty to many of the Ottoman commanders and regional leaders who had supported his brothers. By consolidating these alliances, Mehmed was able to bolster his position and begin the difficult task of restoring Ottoman governance. Despite the challenges, Mehmed I made significant strides in reuniting the Ottoman territories. His reign saw the restoration of Ottoman control over key regions in Anatolia and the Balkans, regions that had been lost during the Civil War. Military campaigns combined with strategic alliances helped reclaim Ottoman territory and expand its influence. Mehmed I also took steps to restore economic stability, which had been severely damaged during the years of conflict. Trade routes were reopened, and the economy began to recover, laying the groundwork for the empire's future prosperity. In conclusion, the Ottoman Interregnum marked one of the most tumultuous periods in the empire's history. The defeat of Bayezid I by Timur had set the stage for political fragmentation and internal conflict. However, the determination and leadership of Mehmed I turned the tide. His victory at Çorlu and his subsequent consolidation of power brought an end to the civil war and laid the foundation for the empire's restoration. Mehmed's reign set the stage for the Ottoman Empire's resurgence, and his legacy would have a lasting impact on the future of the empire for centuries to come. After securing the throne at the Battle of Çorlu in 1413, Mehmed I faced the monumental task of restoring the Ottoman Empire from the devastating effects of the Interregnum. The Civil War had left the empire fractured, weakened, and vulnerable to both internal uprisings and external invasions. Yet, under Mehmed's determined leadership, the Ottoman Empire would slowly rise from the ashes of civil strife and begin its long journey of recovery and expansion. One of the first and most pressing challenges Mehmed I faced was the reconciliation of the empire's fragmented military and political factions. The Ottoman princes, who had previously fought for control of the empire, still held substantial influence in various regions of Anatolia and the Balkans. Mehmed knew that to fully consolidate power, he would need to secure the loyalty of these regional rulers and military commanders. His approach was not solely reliant on military force. Rather, he employed a combination of diplomacy, strategic alliances, and amnesty to build a coalition of support. Mehmed's efforts to reconcile with his former enemies were crucial in stabilizing the empire. Many of the commanders who had supported his brothers during the Civil War were given positions of power and responsibility within the empire. This gesture not only helped heal the rifts within the Ottoman military, but also ensured that the empire's army would be united under a single banner. Mehmed's political acumen in winning over his adversaries proved to be one of the key reasons for his success in consolidating power. While internal unity was essential, the restoration of the empire also required regaining lost territories. During the Civil War, large parts of the Balkans and Anatolia had fallen into rebellion or were occupied by external enemies. Mehmed I focused much of his efforts on reclaiming these regions, starting with the Balkans, which had long been the heart of the Ottoman presence in Europe. The Balkans, once firmly under Ottoman rule, had seen a rise in local resistance during the Interregnum. Various Christian states and regional rulers took advantage of the Ottomans' weakness to challenge Ottoman authority. Mehmed I understood that without restoring control over the Balkans, the empire would never regain its former strength. He launched a series of military campaigns to reassert Ottoman rule over the region. One of his most significant victories came in Serbia, where he decisively defeated rebellious forces and re-established Ottoman control. Mehmed I's campaigns in the Balkans were not just about military conquest. They were also about securing Ottoman influence and rebuilding alliances with local rulers. He used a combination of force and diplomacy, offering protections and privileges to local rulers in exchange for their allegiance. By forging these alliances, Mehmed secured vital trade routes and ensured that the empire's presence in the Balkans would remain strong. While the Balkans were critical, Anatolia was also a region that required Mehmed's attention. The region had seen significant fragmentation during the Civil War, with several independent states emerging from the chaos. Mehmed I was determined to restore Ottoman control over Anatolia, and this would prove to be one of the most challenging aspects of his reign. The region was home to several powerful local dynasties, each of whom sought to maintain their autonomy. Mehmed's strategy for reconquering Anatolia was twofold. He used military campaigns to eliminate resistance and diplomacy to bring smaller rulers into the fold. He first focused on eliminating rivals in the Aegean and Marmara regions, where Ottoman control had been most severely weakened. After securing these areas, he moved inland, where he slowly reabsorbed rebellious states into the Ottoman fold. By the end of his reign, the vast majority of Anatolia was once again under Ottoman control, and the empire's military presence had been restored. One of Mehmed I's most important reforms was his economic recovery program. The Interregnum had disrupted Ottoman trade routes and crippled the empire's economy. Mehmed recognized that economic strength was vital for the empire's survival and future expansion. He sought to re-establish key trade routes that had been severed during the Civil War and implemented policies to encourage agriculture, commerce, and industry. One of Mehmed's most significant actions was the restoration of the Silk Road trade route, which had been a vital link between the East and West for centuries. By revitalizing this route, Mehmed ensured that the Ottoman Empire would once again become a major player in international trade. He also sought to improve the infrastructure within the empire, including the construction of roads, bridges, and fortresses, which not only helped facilitate trade but also strengthened the empire's military defense. In addition to his economic reforms, Mehmed I worked to restore the Ottoman legal system and improve the administration of justice. The prolonged civil war had resulted in a breakdown of law and order, and Mehmed understood that restoring the rule of law was critical for maintaining peace and stability. He re-established the Sharia as the foundation of the legal system and worked to strengthen the Ottoman bureaucracy. His efforts to centralize governance helped improve the efficiency of the empire and ensured that the Sultan's authority was respected throughout the realm. While his political and economic reforms were essential, Mehmed I also worked to restore the Ottoman military. The Ottoman army, which had been severely weakened during the Interregnum, needed to be rebuilt from the ground up. Mehmed I implemented military reforms that not only modernized the army, but also ensured that it was loyal to the Sultan. He also focused on the Ottoman navy, which had lost much of its strength during the Civil War. Mehmed understood that naval power would be critical for the future of the empire, and he invested in building a strong fleet capable of protecting Ottoman interests in both the Mediterranean and the Black Sea. In conclusion, Mehmed I's consolidation of power after the Ottoman Interregnum was marked by his determination, strategic brilliance, and careful balancing of diplomacy, military force, and economic reform. His ability to reunite the empire after years of division set the stage for the Ottoman Empire's resurgence in the 5th–10th century. Through his victories in the Balkans and Anatolia, his economic reforms, and his military rebuilding efforts, Mehmed I laid the foundation for the empire's future success. His reign marked the beginning of a new chapter for the Ottomans, one that would see the empire grow in strength, expand its territories, and become one of the most powerful empires in the world.